Assalamu alaikum everyone, welcome to Dروس, second secondary grade lessons. Today our lesson is a bit of listening, speaking and writing. So I expect you to use your microphones and get your headphones ready and a pen and a note paper. Hello Farah, thanks for joining us. Please tap on if you can hear me. So I just started with the lesson. Let's go to our first objectives in this lesson. We mainly, as you can see, have three objectives. Number one, practicing comparing and contrasting situations and discussing advantages and disadvantages. So we're going to talk about anything that has negatives and positives, advantages and disadvantages. So we're going to compare and contrast things. Two, activate the background knowledge and prepare for the speaking task. So how you prepare for a speaking task, if you ever had a speaking test in your school or any speaking activity, you need some tips and skills to have to do a better speaking task. The other thing, which is number three, we're going to write some based on the process of brainstorming. So we're going to try to brainstorm about something and write about it a paragraph or a couple of paragraphs. Okay? Are you ready, Farah? So if I ask you about this picture, what do you see here? What do you see here in this picture? You got those people here, this person right over there. So Farah, what do you see in this picture? So if you explain this picture trying to say who, what, why, and where, you can say who is in this room, in the classroom. They seem to be university students maybe, or students in general. And who's the man there? He is a professor or a teacher. And what are they doing? They are studying something. And why they are here in this room? Because they like to learn English, or they are trying to build their future so they can get a better certificate. And where is this photo taken from? Most of us would think it's just a school or a university or an institution or anything similar to this. If we move on to speaking. So speaking, what purposes do you use English for? And if I ask you, Farah, you like to learn English, and why? Yes, of course, that's why you're here, to learn English. And what is the reason? What is the purpose for you to learn English? To communicate with the world. That's a very good idea. That's right. So we need English because most of the internet is in English. You need English when you travel outside the country. So there's a country where they cannot speak your language, but they speak English. To read some books, because most of books are in English. Also, if you get into the restaurant, if you ever bought any maybe video game, you need English for it. And also you need it for school, and also it's very good for you to learn another language. And English is the language of business and science and money and all those stuff. So you need you need a business language to communicate with the world. That's good. Thank you very much, Farah. So I'm going to play for you some audio, which is a listening activity. So you're going to listen to the radio interview with a professor of linguistics, then read the statements below and guess whether they're true or false. So here we have to write T or F, okay, if the sentence is true or false. You better get your headphones ready before we play it, okay? We did not play anything yet. So get your headphones ready. I'm going to read this for you from 1 to 7, and then I'm going to play for you the audio file. So here it's written one out of every 3 people in the world speaks English. There are just under 1 billion people learning English. The English language is used at major sporting events around the world. 75 million letters and postcards in English are sent every day. More than 75% of the content of the internet is in English. Very few non-native speakers of English write articles or blogs on the internet in English. And 7, in the future, Mandarin might be used more than English on the internet. So get your headphones ready. I'm going to play the file for you, and I will disable my microphone so you can hear better. Ready? All right.
1A. Listening and speaking. Listening. B. Now listen to a radio interview with a professor of linguistics and check your answers in exercise A.
Good afternoon. Today I have with me Donald Turpin from East Durham University, and we are going to talk about English, the language which is fast becoming the world language. Welcome, Donald.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So, how many people across the globe speak English?
The current figure is estimated to be about 1.5 billion people.
Really?
Yes, and if you consider the population of the world, which is 6.7 billion, that means approximately 1 in 4 people on the planet can speak English.
That's interesting. And I expect these numbers are growing.
Yes, English is the most taught language in the world, with over 1 billion people learning it.
Well, I often hear world leaders and politicians from different countries speaking in English, and major events like the Olympics are conducted in English.
Yes, if there is a world language, I think we can safely say it's English. Most of the world's communication is in English. In fact, 75% of all letters and postcards are in English.
And I expect it's the same for the internet.
Definitely. 80% of internet content is in English, and over 1/3 of the 1 billion web users are English language users.
And these users are not necessarily native English speakers, I understand.
Not at all. Many non-natives choose to write articles or blogs in English, so their work has a wider audience.
That makes sense.
However, research shows that the increasing number of Chinese web users means that in the future, most of the web could well be in Mandarin.
An interesting thought. Okay, let's talk more about the effect that English has.
Yeah, there's some echo and double voice when it happens over the internet. Sorry for that. So let's go to the text here again, and let's try to answer number 1, which is 1 out of every 3 people in the world speaks English. So what do you think? Is this true or false? 1 out of every 3 people speak English. This is, of course, not true. It means this is false. So the number 1 is false. So we're going to write F according to what we have heard. All right. 2, there are just under 1 billion people learning English. Only 1 billion people? Under? No, there are more actually. So this is false. There are more than 1 billion people. And number 3, the English language is used at major sporting events around the world. This is true. Thank you, Far. Very good. You see, most of, football matches, World Cup, and all these events are in English. So 75 million letters and postcards in English are sent every day. This is false. This is a very big number. Okay. 5, more than 75 of the content of the internet is in English. This is also true. More than 75% of internet is English. 6, very few non-native speakers of English write articles or blogs on the internet in English. This is not very few non-native speakers. Most people, speakers or non-speakers, they write, okay, blogs and everything in English. 6 is false. 7, in the future, Mandarin might be used more than English in the internet, and this is true. Mandarin may be language used for business, like, maybe in China, maybe, okay, is going to be used more than English in case of some political and financial changes. Good, so let's check our answers. So we got the same thing, false, false, true, false, and true. Okay, now let's go through something else, which is about speaking. So if I ask you, for everything you want to talk about, you need to have some help, skills, tips, whatever you think it might make you speak better. And sometimes people practice alone; they speak for themselves. For speaking, there are too many tips that can help you to speak. And before you try to speak or have maybe a speaking test or an oral test in your school, you need to get yourself ready. So you need to do some brainstorming, think about what you're going to talk, maybe write some tips on a paper so they can help you to talk about them, and then you try to gather some information and get some examples to support you. So you take the tips written on a paper and try to discuss them with yourself. And imagine yourself that you're preparing for the text like you do now. Many even, politicians, many even teachers, even, all those people, when they have a speech, they write it on a paper, they prepare it, and they practice on it. So this is one of the things about speaking, because language is speaking and writing at the same time. But you need it to develop yourself in speaking. So as you can read here with me, when you are asked to discuss the advantages and disadvantages of something, you have to express your opinion. So if you have to say something negative or positive or how good it is, you need to express yourself. And you remember to give reasons why you like this, because 1, 2, 3. And also, no answer is right or wrong. This is just speaking, all right? But you try your best to defend what you like and what you don't like. So words that are related to a learning, a language, there are some words here: at one's own speed, atmosphere, contact, feedback, interaction, learning environment, mother tongue, non-native speaker, pronunciation, questionnaire, spelling, vocabulary. So if you talk about the advantages and disadvantages of learning a foreign language, you can use the words as we said here. So there are advantages mostly to learn foreign languages. As I stated before, for English, it's very sophisticated actually, and very educational and nice for you among people that, oh, you speak 2 or 3 languages. This is great, so people will respect you more. And you learn about people's culture, you learn about people's habits, you learn about other people's history. You use it for the internet, you use it for your job, you use it for science, for books, for business, for internet. You got too many reasons that can help you to learn another language. Actually, not too much to talk about disadvantages, though not know this way. If we take an example of what we're speaking about now, if you take a look at this classroom and take a look at this classroom, this is a classroom of, boys. You got boys sitting in their seats and taking a lesson. This is what we do every day in schools. And this is what we do now. This is maybe a boy watching Dروس online or studying on the internet. So which one you prefer? What is the positives and negatives, the advantages and disadvantages of learning in a classroom in a classical way? And what are the advantages and disadvantages for learning online? So look at the pictures and talk about advantages and disadvantages of each ways of learning a foreign language. So imagine this is an English classroom, and imagine this is Dروس English or English Dروس online. Which one you prefer and why? Well, good Farah says that first, when you communicate with the teacher face-to-face, this is very good. So for the first picture, Farah says that you communicate face-to-face with the teacher. So you see the teacher's facial expression, body language, you hear his voice. You can ask him directly some questions to the teachers, and the teacher will help you immediately. As for the computer, you don't know who is the teacher, how does he look, his body language, his facial expressions. So it's a little bit dry here. Here it's more interactive and more live. Very good. Thank you very much. That's a very good advantage and disadvantage for both. Very good, Farah. Thank you. So in other ways also, for this classroom, you get help from your friends, so you can sit in group, do some interactive learning, do some active learning and some cooperative learning. So you can sit in group, this group helps one another and other groups help one another. So you can also share information, you can get help with your, some help with your homework. And also here, you cannot go into groups. It's people, somehow cannot, divide into group on the internet. But here also, if there is rain or wind, you can't go to school, so you stay home. But also here, if there's a storm, la samah Allah, there's a war, there's a flood, there's something wrong happens outside, which you can't control, maybe something natural disease, so the disaster, so Dروس can help you. There's so many people, or even some students are sick, they cannot go, so they can come to Dروس and compensate, okay, and make up what they have missed from the missing classes. So here there are some advantages also for electronic learning. It's private. It's flexible, so you can see this lesson anytime, anywhere. You can watch it from any place, and you can download it. You can watch it over and over again. So here we had some nice chat about the difference between classical learning in classroom and digital learning or e-learning on the internet. So here are some answers that we almost covered. So it's better for pair or group work, as we said for the picture in B in the classroom. You can have groups. The student has the opportunity to actively interact with his or her fellow classmates, enjoy lively discussion, and practice oral skills. And that's what Farah said. You can communicate directly with the teacher, interact with your students, see the teacher's face, facial expressions, body language, and you can work in group also. Contact with other students increase motivation. So you have motivation with other friends, and Farah is number 1, Sarah is number 2, Layla is number 3, so you have competition all the time. The presence of the teacher is of great importance because students can ask questions and there's an immediate feedback. So there's a teacher who can help you at any time, inside the classroom immediately or outside the classroom if you ever needed help. While if we compare picture B with the self-study through the use of computer and other aids like dictionaries, references, e-learning classes, sessions, blogs, and so on. There are 3 advantages. It's a self-study is ideal for people who need to make fast progress. So you can depend on yourself if you're a very good student and you have your resources. So you get a centered student and you depend on yourself and you get some self-study. So number 2, students can learn and study in a peaceful atmosphere and work at their own speed. So you don't have to wait your students. So you just go and develop yourself and get a more quick education than others because you don't have limits. More convenient to organize studying time without the hassle and stress of being in a classroom at specific time, and that's what all students like. You don't have to come and wake up at 6 a.m. and maybe come back later and go to school and see the traffic outside and the jam of cars outside. You can come, you can wake up anytime, you can log to the internet whenever you like, you attend the lesson at 7, at 12, at 2, at 3. So it's flexible and it helps you organize your study skills and educational routines of learning on your own. Now let's talk about writing. Here are some tips when you write a paragraph, because once you go to school you have to write. And unfortunately we're watching how writing is fading into a lost art, but it does not have to be like this for students. Now people, most of the time use computers. They type on a smartphone or an iPad, and that's not good for your future, because in school, especially in university, you have to use your hand and write, because this is something academic. So here are some tips for your writing so you can write in a better way. So when you write a paragraph, you begin with an introductory sentence, then develop the idea in the introductory sentence, explain it, give reasons using because, as, the reason why, etc. And if possible, give an example using for example, for instance, such as, and etc. So again, when we write, we need to close our eyes, imagine. You have to imagine. Something also important is that before we write, we need to have a sheet of paper as a draft, read through some information, then try to write tips, short sentences, and then start with the introductory paragraph or start to make an introduction. When you write, you have to develop your ideas, explain them. So if you write about vegetarian people, so you like people to be vegetarian so they can eat, most of the time they eat vegetables, they eat fruit and other, healthy things. So you need to explain why you like this and why is this good for you. And then you develop your ideas and also give reasons. So you say vegetarian people live happy life, they suffer less, diseases, they don't visit the doctors. So then you explain why, because, fat and meat and they really exhaust our digestive system. And then you give reasons. Vegetarian people can eat anytime, anywhere. They can eat, in a better way, in a healthy way. They have less cholesterol and blood pressure problem, and they rarely can get diabetes. They sleep better, they do better, and you give reasons. Those are reasons. And then you say because, why, and then at the end, you give examples. Maybe you can use some information for those who made some poll or made some study about the different, advantages and disadvantages for being, for example, a vegetarian. So you write all these tips, and then you try to stretch every sentence, giving examples, and develop your ideas. If we take an example here, think of as many reasons as possible why people want to learn English, so you can discuss using these ideas. This is a box, so you can make 4 sentences here. You can take those 4 sentences later here and start to make each one as a paragraph. For example, we learn English or any other foreign language to travel. So when you travel, even here, some restaurants you have to talk in English so they can serve you better. You need it for your job or for your business. You need it as a hobby. For internet, if you want to study abroad, so when you finish high school, you want to go to university in UK or in Australia, Canada, or anywhere else. So you want to study abroad, and you need it for school because you study English, and you need it for your test so you can have, high grades and high marks. So if we start here, I travel a lot with my family, so this is why I am learning English. 2, I'm learning English because I want to improve my job so I can get better raise. 3, I need English because we study English in our schools, and I want to do well on my exams. 4, I want the internet because it's a very, I want to learn English for internet and as a hobby, because learning a foreign language is a very sophisticated thing, and I need it for my video games because I play video games a lot. So this is how, we just use one word in the box, and we made 1 sentence, 2, 3, 4 sentence, and then this is a topic sentence. You can stretch it out, close your eyes and imagine, and here you start to write about your topic. So if I ask you to write a paragraph explaining why you want to learn English, so you take a sheet of paper, close your eyes, imagine, write some tips, write some short sentences because of this. So you start your introductory paragraph and leave a word space at the beginning. So you say, it's a matter of fact that English has become the language of science and business. Then you say, moreover, students need English in school so they can develop their scores, and they can get high grades, and they can use their high grades in the future for university. Also, we learn English because we need it if we travel outside for learning in a university. So learning in a university, even here inside Saudi Arabia, maybe all your professors don't speak Arabic, so they speak English. So you need English for your future. Okay? So you can write actually as many as possible here about the reasons, and you develop your ideas, say why, and explain them. Here is a sample writing of this. So you can take this as a sample. I'm learning English for job purposes. I work as a personal assistant for a large import-export company. Since English is an international language, we use it to communicate with our clients in other countries. For example, I have to send emails to our clients or speak to them on the telephone in English. See, this is just a very beautiful short paragraph about how you start saying you're learning English for what? For job purposes. Why? Job purposes. Work on a personal assistant. There's a company that deals with English. So you need English as an international language to communicate with your customers and clients. So you send emails, telephones, and you speak with them. So also, Farah said we learn English to understand them. Yes. And communicate or understand other people and their languages. That's very cool. That's very right. Thank you very much, Farah. You're right. So that was just a sample of writing. And remember, writing is like driving a car. The first time you drive a car, you don't know. Then you know better, and then you know better, and then you know better. So this is a summary now. Let's remember what we did very quickly. So when you're asked to discuss the advantages and disadvantages, and yes, to communicate with other countries. You know, now people spend too much time on the internet for Facebook, for YouTube, and Twitter, and WhatsApp. You need English for this. Good. Thank you, Farah. You express your opinion. Remember, give reasons, and there's no answers. Perfect. It's just, you know, it's always good to talk. So when you write a paragraph, begin with an introduction or an introductory sentence. As we said, develop your idea, explain it, say why, give reasons using because, as, the reason why, etc. And if possible, give an example using, for instance, such. So you can use actually connectors like also, moreover, nevertheless, finally, in addition to this, and so on. So you can practice. So the more you write and correct, write and correct, you can do very well in the future for your writing. Very good. Here we are, reached the final, almost the final slide here. These are references. You can come back to them at any time if you can have an extra activity. You can watch this lesson anytime, anywhere. You have a toll-free number, Twitter account. You can ask a question also, and you have technical support that can help you. I would love to see you again, Farah. You're doing well. And if you can invite your friends here to join us, it would be very better. I would love to see 100 students here. All right. I have another lesson at 6:15. Hope to find you there. Thank you for being here, and